Today we have Mr. Judah and Miss Tamar. So Judah and Tamar, Judah is one of Jacob's sons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so Judah has two sons. Judah has a son, his name is who
Mm-hmm.
was apparently very evil. They don't even say what he did, they just say he was evil in the sight of the Lord, and God killed him. So we lifted up in prayer too, because I don't know what you were doing, but it wasn't good.
Apparently, it was enough.
So in this time, there is a custom that if your brother dies, you are supposed to give his wife children so that he will have children in his name. They're not going to be your children, but it's still the family line or whatever. So Judah has another son. His name is like Onan or Onan, or I don't have the pronunciation. He is another person we're going to lift up in prayer because he does not want to get his sister-in-law pregnant, but he wants to have sex with her. Let's talk about that. So he doesn't want to get her pregnant, so he has sex with her, and I will say what the Bible says. He emits on the ground. He emits his semen onto the ground. I can say that. I'm not going to say the slang for what people say it is, but he emits his semen onto the ground, so he does not get her pregnant. God sees this, and he kills him too. At this point, Judah's like, my sons keep dying. I don't know if it's because of Tamar or what, but I have another son named something. Shella something.
Yeah, it's Shella, but I think it's Shella, but I've been calling him Sheila all week.
So he has another son, but that son is young, apparently, because Judah's like, I'm not going to give you him till he's as a husband until he's grown up.
Mm-hmm.
So Tamar's waiting. Tamar, let's not forget, Tamar is not even a Hebrew girl. She's a Canaanite woman. So there we have, I want to say, I don't know if God said this yet, but they weren't supposed to be intermixing with the Canaanites. Maybe he told them that later because of all the drama that was happening. So
yeah.
Later on,
Abraham was like, I don't want my son Isaac to be with any of these Canaanite women.
Yeah, he had the right idea. So they knew that because like I said in the last episode, Canaanites sacrificed their children to Baal, or you can call him Molech too. It's a god that likes newborn babies, apparently. But anyway, so Tamar, she's waiting. She has on her widow's clothes. Her two husbands have died. She sees that Shelah has grown up and he is not her husband yet. And she's like, what's up, Judah? So I don't even know how she gets this in her brain. She decides, but I decided that she knew that Judah was already doing this. Like that was like a thing that he frequented. So she decides to dress like a prostitute, which is actually covering her face and kind of being like covered, which is weird. You would think that she'd just be like, whoa.
Right.
But, so she's sitting in a place where I guess, she looked like a prostitute, and Judah walks up to her and he's like, hey, come sleep with me. And she's like, why? What are you going to give me? So first of all, I'm like, okay, Judah, this is not your first time at the rodeo. You clearly approach prostitutes when you see them. You're like, oh, prostitutes here? Bet it's time for me to sleep with her, because I'm like, where was his wife? Wasn't he married too? Pretty sure Judah was married. He had kids.
Yeah.
And I think that his wife was I think his wife was Canaanite woman too, if I read that right. So he's like, let me sleep with her. So she's like, what are you going to give me? And I think he was like, I'll give you a goat, but I don't have it right now. So she's like, well, leave me.
I gotta get my goat.
Your ring and whatever. And she's like, you could bring me the goat and I'll give you stuff back. So he sleeps with her, right? Ends up getting her pregnant. He doesn't know. She leaves, takes off her prostitute clothes, puts back on her widow clothes like nobody knows anything.
Listen, okay, hold on. Okay.
Their story is crazy.
Okay. So how does his son know how to not get a girl pregnant, but he don't?
Oh, he didn't care. He didn't pull out. He didn't emit on the ground. Oh, can I say pull out? He didn't emit. He did not emit on the ground. Clearly, and she was clearly ovulating. It was perfect timing on everything. So But again, people in God's plan, because these two are not really good people. Tamar, I don't know what she was thinking. So we're
She was
gonna
trying to
get
get
to
you
how
back.
we're gonna get to how they impact Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
because okay, so now the word around town is to Judah, hey, your daughter-in-law's been out here acting like a prostitute, even though
Right.
she only dressed like a prostitute probably once, or I don't know. They didn't say anything else about it. So
She
she
sure
probably
didn't know what
wanted
to wear.
that to happen because clearly she's pregnant now. She's about to start showing. Um, so he gets mad and he's like, "Bring her out! I'm gonna burn her to death." When he is the sinner, it's like people now when people have sinned one way and they want to call out another sin, like they should just be burned at the stake when you're all sinning.
Right.
Like
Like
you're the one who
when they
slept
caught
with
the
a
woman in the act
prostitute.
of adultery, like there was a whole dude in the bed. You can't
Yeah,
you can't commit adultery by yourself.
and this is the thing. He acted all high and mighty because he thought nobody knew about his sin. Because guess what? When she reveals his sin by saying, "Well, the father of my child is whose items these are, the items that he left her." When he sees it, he switches his story real fast. He's like,
Oh
"You know
yeah.
what?" He's like, "She is actually more honest than I am, and I am not a good person." And he just left it alone. He was like, "Dang,
Right.
that sucks." He was like, "She got me," and he just left it alone because you're caught. So then she has twins. And I don't know what the other one's name was, but one of them is named Perez, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
when she gives birth, though, one is trying to come out. He puts his hand out, and they put a red string on his hand to signify that he was the first. But
Mm-hmm.
then he withdraws his hand, and then Perez comes out, and he
Yep.
was the firstborn. And Perez is actually, uh, um, is it the he Jesus is from that line. Perez
Mm-hmm.
is in the Jesus Messiah line, which I thought was pretty interesting. So
Yeah.
Judah and and Tamar, as crazy as they are ancestors of Jesus.
Man. Mm-hmm.
That God uses messed up people to
Mm-hmm.
do his work. Because if he just used perfect people, would the gospel really be the gospel? No. That's what I have to say about that.